I used to believe home was the safest place in the world. People say, no matter what happens, you can always go home. But what if home is the place that slowly breaks you? My name is Aira. I'm 24 years old. From the outside, my life looked normal. I had a job. I had a family. I had a roof over my head. But every night when I unlocked the front door, my chest felt heavy. Not because I was tired, but because I was scared. Let me explain. Growing up, our house was always quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet. The kind that makes you walk slowly. The kind that makes you listen carefully before you speak. My father believed love was discipline. My mother believed silence was strength. And I believed I had to be perfect to deserve love. I remember being 8 years old, holding my school result paper with shaking hands. I got second place in class. I was proud. I thought they would smile. Instead, my father said, "Why not first?" That question followed me for years. Why not better? Why not smarter? Why not more like other girls? Slowly, our house stopped feeling warm. It became a place of rules, a place of expectations, a place where mistakes were not allowed. I learned to hide my feelings. When I was sad, I smiled. When I was hurt, I said, "I'm fine." When I wanted to cry, I waited until everyone slept, because in that house, emotions were weakness. Fast forward to today. I work in a small office in the city. My colleagues laugh loudly. They share stories about their families during lunch. Yesterday, my mom cooked my favorite dish. My dad called just to check on me. I smile and nod. I don't know what that feels like. Every evening when I leave work, I walk slowly to the bus stop. Not because I'm tired, but because going home feels like walking into a storm. The moment I enter, my father asks, "Why are you late?" Even if I'm not. My mother asks, "Why are you so quiet?" Even if I'm just thinking. It feels like I'm always wrong. I sit at the dinner table carefully. I choose my words carefully. I breathe carefully. Because one wrong sentence can turn into a lecture. And I am tired. Tired of being careful. Tired of pretending. Tired of feeling like a guest in my own house. One night, I stood in front of the mirror in my room. I looked at my reflection and whispered, "Why don't I feel safe here?" That question scared me. Because home is supposed to be safe. But my heart beats faster at home than anywhere else. I started staying longer at work. Volunteering for extra tasks. Sitting alone at cafes just to avoid going back. My friends think I'm hardworking. They don't know I'm just delaying the moment I have to step into that house. One evening, after another silent dinner, my father said something that changed everything. He looked at me and said, "If you don't like our rules, you can leave." The room became quiet. My mother looked down. And for the first time in my life, I thought about it. Leave? Could I? Would I? That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. For years, I tried to fit into that house. For years, I tried to be enough. But what if? What if home didn't feel like home because I was never allowed to be myself? And what if leaving was not running away, but choosing peace? I didn't sleep that night. Because for the first time, I realized I had a choice. And that thought was both terrifying and freeing. I didn't tell anyone about my decision. Not my friends, not my colleagues, not even myself, at least not out loud. But something inside me had shifted. The words "you can leave" kept repeating in my head. For years, I thought I had no choice. I thought staying was my duty. I thought enduring was love. But what if staying was slowly destroying me? The next few days felt strange. I watched my family differently. I listened differently. At dinner, my father complained about the salt in the soup. My mother apologized quickly. I noticed something I had never allowed myself to see before. My mother looked tired. Not physically. Emotionally. She had been surviving too. And suddenly, I understood something painful. This house was built on fear, not love. That night, my father criticized me again. "You're 24 and still don't know what you're doing with your life." I felt the familiar sting in my chest. But this time, I didn't cry. I just felt calm. Because I knew something he didn't. I was leaving. Not in anger, not to prove a point, but to breathe. I started small. I opened a new bank account. I searched for rooms to rent online. I calculated my salary again and again. Could I survive alone? The answer scared me. Maybe. But staying scared me more. One evening after work, I went to see a small room for rent. It was on the 3rd floor of an old building. The paint on the walls was not perfect. The window was small. But when I stepped inside, it was quiet. Peaceful quiet, not the heavy kind. I stood there and imagined putting my bed by the wall. A small plant near the window. A soft yellow lamp. For the first time, I imagined a space that belonged to me. I signed the rental agreement the next day. My hands were shaking. This was real. The night I decided to pack my bags, the house felt even smaller than usual. I waited until everyone slept. I opened my wardrobe slowly. What do you take when you're leaving the only home you've ever known? Clothes, yes. Important documents, of course. A few childhood photos I secretly loved. But I also packed something invisible. Courage. As I folded my clothes, memories came rushing in. Birthday dinners that felt formal. Exam results that were never enough. Silent tears at midnight. I paused. Was I being ungrateful? They gave me a roof. They paid for my school. But is survival the same as love? My heart answered softly. No. At 2 a.m., my suitcase was ready. I sat on my bed and looked around my room. This room had seen every version of me. The scared child. The quiet teenager. The tired adult. I'm sorry, I whispered. Not to my parents. To myself. Sorry for staying silent for so long. The next morning I woke up earlier than usual. My suitcase stood near the door. My heart was beating so fast I thought they could hear it. When my father saw the suitcase, his face changed. What is this? I swallowed. I'm moving out. Silence. My mother froze. My father's voice became cold. So you think you're independent now? I wanted to argue. I wanted to defend myself, but I remembered something important. This was not a fight. This was a choice. I just need my own space, I said quietly. My mother's eyes were watery, but she didn't stop me. And maybe that was her silent way of saying she understood. When I walked out of that house, suitcase in hand, the sun felt brighter than usual. I expected to feel guilty. Broken. Lost. Instead, I felt light. But deep down, I knew something. Leaving a house is easy. Leaving the pain it gave you. That would take much longer. The first night in my new room felt strange. It was quiet. Too quiet. No footsteps in the hallway. No sudden knocking on my door. No voices criticizing the way I breathe, speak, or sit. Just silence. I placed my suitcase near the wall and sat on the bed. The mattress was thin. The room was small. The paint was slightly peeling. But it was mine. I should have felt happy. Instead, I felt scared. Because when you grow up in chaos, peace feels unfamiliar. I turned on the small yellow lamp I bought on the way. The light was soft. Warm. I whispered to myself. You're safe. But my body didn't believe it yet. That night, I kept waking up. Every small sound made my heart race. A car passing outside. A door closing somewhere in the building. My mind was still living in the old house. I realized something painful. I had left the house. But the house had not left me. The next morning I made my own breakfast. Toast and coffee. Nothing special. But no one complained about the way I held the cup. No one asked why I woke up late. It was quiet. And slowly, that quiet started to feel gentle instead of scary. At work, my colleague Mira noticed something. You look different, she said. I smiled. I moved out. Her eyes widened. Wow, that's brave. Brave. No one had ever called me that before. That word stayed with me the whole day. But bravery doesn't erase loneliness. That evening, when I returned to my room, the silence felt heavier again. I scrolled through my phone. No messages from my father, no calls from my mother. Part of me felt relieved. Another part felt unwanted. Was I that easy to let go? I sat on the floor and let myself cry. Not because I regretted leaving, but because I realized something. I had spent my whole life trying to earn love from people who didn't know how to give it. And now that I was alone, I didn't know how to give love to myself either. The days passed. I started creating small routines. I cleaned my room every Sunday morning. I bought a small plant and placed it near the window. I played soft music while getting ready for work. Little by little, the room began to feel warmer. One evening, I looked around and noticed something new. I was breathing deeply. Not carefully, not quietly, just naturally. That was when I understood something important. Freedom is not loud. It's soft. It's waking up without fear. It's eating without being judged. It's crying without hiding. But healing? Healing is messy. Some nights I still hear my father's voice in my head. You're not good enough. You're too sensitive. You'll fail without us. And sometimes I almost believe him. Until I look at my small room. I pay the rent. I pay the bills. I go to work. I survive. Maybe I'm not failing. Maybe I'm growing. One weekend, I received a message from my mother. Just one sentence. Are you eating properly? I stared at the screen for a long time. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a confession of love. But it was the closest thing to care she had ever shown me. I replied, yes, I'm okay. And for the first time, I meant it. That night, as I lay in bed, I realized something powerful. Home is not always the place you are born in. Sometimes, home is the place you build for yourself. And maybe, just maybe, I was finally starting to build mine. Weeks turned into months, and my small room slowly became more than just a place to sleep. It became a place to exist, a place to think, a place to feel. I started exploring simple joys I had forgotten, cooking meals I actually liked, listening to music that made me dance in my pajamas, buying small things for myself without asking anyone's permission. It was strange, but beautiful. I realized something. Growing up in a house where love was conditional, I had forgotten how to enjoy life for myself. At first, I felt guilty. I thought I was selfish. I thought leaving was a betrayal. I thought maybe I should have stayed and endured more. But slowly, guilt faded. I understood that choosing peace over fear is not selfish. One evening, I met a friend for coffee. We sat by the window, laughing and talking about nothing important. "You look lighter," she said. I smiled. I think I finally am. It wasn't that life outside the house was perfect. I still worried about money. I still had doubts about myself. I still missed the warmth of family, the one I had never fully received. But now, I could choose how to deal with it. I could cry when I missed them. I could call when I wanted. I could forgive myself for the years I stayed silent. One rainy night, I sat by the window, watching water slide down the glass. I thought about my father, my mother, the house I left behind. I realized something hard. They did the best they knew how. But their best was not enough for me, and that was okay. I picked up my journal and wrote, "Home is where I am safe. Home is where I can be me. Home is where I can breathe." I stopped thinking of home as a building or an address. Home was a feeling, a space, a heart. It was my heart. I started setting boundaries, small ones at first. Saying no when something didn't feel right. Speaking my mind even when it was scary. And every time I did, I felt stronger. I even started reconnecting with friends I had drifted from, not to escape my past, but to fill my present with people who made me feel alive. I realized that the world is bigger than the walls of the house I left. There are people who care without demanding perfection. There are spaces that welcome your mistakes. There are homes that are not built from fear, but from kindness and respect. Most importantly, I realized I could create my own home. And slowly, I did. My room became cozy. My routines became rituals. My life became mine. I finally understood. Leaving was not the hardest part. The hardest part was learning how to live. But each day I grew braver, and with every brave choice, my heart felt lighter. For the first time I could say, without fear or hesitation, I am okay. It's been a year since I left the house that never felt like home. I still think about my parents. I still think about the rooms I grew up in. But now, those thoughts don't scare me. I've learned something important. Home is not a building. Home is not people, not walls, not rules. Home is the feeling of safety, comfort, and belonging. And I found that feeling inside myself. I started small. Every morning I make my bed and open the curtains. I take a deep breath and tell myself, today I am safe. Today I am enough. Some days I still feel fear. Some days memories of the old house make my chest tight. But now I have a choice. I can stay in that fear, or I can breathe and remind myself of my own strength. I even reconnected with my parents, in my own way. I call them sometimes. I answer their calls. I don't need approval anymore. I don't need to justify myself. We talk differently now. Slowly, carefully. Not because everything is perfect, but because I know my peace comes first. I also started helping others who feel trapped at home. Friends, co-workers, even strangers. People who are scared of leaving, scared of choosing themselves. I tell them something simple. Home is not where you were born. Home is where you are safe. And if that place doesn't exist yet, create it. I moved into a bigger apartment recently. My plant has grown taller than my windowsill. I bought a soft blanket I love. I cook meals I enjoy. I even put up a few fairy lights that make the room warm at night. When I come home, I smile. When I sit on my bed, I feel peace. When I fall asleep, I feel safe. And the best part? I don't need anyone to tell me I'm enough. I already know it. Home isn't perfect. It's messy. It's full of mistakes and lessons. But it's mine. And I can finally say, I am home. Not in a house. Not in a family's approval. Not in anyone's rules. I am home in myself. And that is the most powerful home of all.